Hello learners. Today we will be covering MMPC 006 Organizational Dynamics. Block 1 will cover organizational dynamics and overview, under which there are two units, Unit 3 Dynamics of Communication and Unit 4 Organizational Politics. Let's understand about the communication. Communication is a transfer and understanding of meaning, which is quoted by Robinson Judge in 2013. For an effective communication, it is important to inhibit good communication skills that helps in transferring the meaning. However, only imparting meaning is not sufficient. The intent of entire information with emphasis on its understanding is needed. Among us, the most desirable skills desired in the employees, their ability to communicate effectively is preferred and most since it is directly linked with career success. The perfect communication will exist when the meaning of the message implied and sent by the sender is perceived exactly in the same way by the receiver. Communication in simple words can be defined as a process that helps in transferring and understanding of meaning. Communication is important in every phase of life as well as in the every functional area. But there are certain functions of communication. Number one is control. In an organization, for example, any hierarchical setup, there are employees that work across different levels and hierarchies with designated roles and guidelines given to them. If an employee undergoes any problem, he or she will have to follow a ladder to communicate first with the immediate boss, second with the senior, super senior, or maybe then the third even to the higher authority. This way of communication is helping in controlling function. Second is motivation. According to Maslow's need hierarchy theory, it influences our employees towards their goal by simulation behavior. By attaching rewards to different goals, an organization is indulging in providing motivation, for example, in a form of recognizing a team efforts in the annual meetings. For all this to take place, it is important to indulge in effective communication. Third is functions of communication. When an employee feels overwhelmed, the next step is to effectively communicate the same so that the expression of emotions get transferred. Even in social interactions, exchanging the day-to-day satisfaction, happiness, and anger helps in expression of emotions. This helps in fulfillment of social needs of any employee. Whereas the function information while in the decision making procedures, employees are usually submerged with various options if concerning of any project for an employee to choose the best alternative. It is evident to receive all the information regarding the choices and then be able to reach the specific point. Therefore, here also the communication is responsible to facilitate the information to different individuals and groups to evaluate choices. So, when we talk about the functions of communication, it is not only transferring, it is also a transferring of message in terms of when the employees have certain emotions at their workplace, transferring of information from one hierarchy to another hierarchy level up, and overall when we see the motivation, it is equally important for the team leader to uh, quote couple of messages or maybe the responses of the team efforts which gives a motivation to the team for doing the better work. Control is very important part of a communication as well. Overall, the communication process is very simple, but yet it is complex in a way. It is on a micro level when we talk about the sender, or we generally in sending a message and receiving a message is a communication process. But there are certain elements which are included in communication process. First is sender. The sender is a person who initiates a message by encoding a thought or maybe any message, either written or verbal. Encoding message refers to the message as the actual physical product of the sender's encoding. When we speak, the speech is the message. When we write, the writing is a message. When we gesture, the movements of our arms and the expressions on the faces are the messages. So this is the sender side, whereas it send the message through some medium that we call it channel, through which the message travels. Once that it passes through the channel, it goes to the person who receives, is known as receiver, the person to whom message is directed. The message then decoded. Decoding here means the transferring of the symbols or the message in an understandable form. This step is decoding message, which basically is the from the receiving side. After decoding the message, it gives the feedback to the sender. Feedback refers to the check on how successful we have a person, the receiver, have been in transferring the message as originally intended. It determines whether understanding has been achieved or not. There are certain barriers. For example, noise is the common barrier which represents the distortion and lack of clarity of the message. Overall, when we talk about the communication process, it is not only about sending and receiving, unless it is not completed by the feedback given by the receiver to the sender, whether they have received in a proper format, proper form or not. There are certain direction of communication. First is downward communication, where the communication that flows from higher authority to the lower levels of the organization. The example is a manager giving instructions to the employees about the project. Upward is vice versa of downward, where the flow of information goes from higher lower levels to the higher authority. For example, an employee submitting a report to the supervisor about the project process. Then there is lateral communication. Lateral communication means between the individuals or interdepartmental communication at the same hierarchical level. Two departmental heads collaborating on a joint business strategy is an example of lateral communication. Modes of communication. Majorly, there are three modes of communication: oral communication, written communication, and non-verbal communication. When we say oral communication, it is directly represent the speech, one-on-one discussions, group discussions that constitute the oral communication. Some of the informal type of oral communication can be termed as rumors or gossips that spread across all the levels of their organization. This form of communication is comparatively very fast and expressive, whereas the written communication is more of a formal communication, which includes the letters, emails, quick messaging, periodicals, notices on the office, boards, memos. This form of communication is easily verifiable since the message is written, the message is documented. Both the parties have a record of the message that act as a proof in case of any disturbance, in case of any problem situations in an organization. This can be used as referencing. Non-verbal communication refers to the body movements. It refers to the facial expressions and the physical distance that is evident between the sender and receiver. At times, employees act out of consciousness and unconsciousness, both. For instance, for winking an eye, slapping the forehead, and lifting the eyebrow. All of these gestures reflect some meaning that can be critical for the receiver. Out of this, body language is very important. It is step ahead of verbal and non-verbal communication, but it often confuses with the essence of verbal communication. The body language might communicate something, but when added with the verbal communication, it tends to give complete message to the sender. Similarly, the facial expression, like a smile, along with the information of why don't I take you out for a lunch, reflects a person in eager to step out with someone rather than spending time alone. There are two channels of organizational communication. First is formal channel, where the communication process is established, where specifying the chain of authority and responsibility. Communication process is basically all the steps that take place when a source individual pushes for a message that results into transfer and meaning for the individual who is receiving. They follow the hierarchical step and the line of communication that follows because of it. For example, approval of a leave. When an employee wants the leave for for something, they undergoes the upward communication approach. This is a part of formal channel. An employee gives the leave application to the immediate supervisor, then it goes to the upper level for the approval. This is how it happens in the formal organization. Formal channels are basically into three categories. One is chain, wheel, and all channel. When it's chain, it is rigidly follow the formal chain of command. This can be found in typical three levels of organization. The wheel relies on central figure to act as a conduit for all the group's communication. It can be found in group team with a strong leader, whereas the all channel permits all the group members to actively communicate with one another. This can be found in typical self-managed team. Let's understand more on these formal channels. When we say chain, it is a specific formal chain of command which follows the typical hierarchical positions within an organization. One cannot break that chain and goes and bypass their immediate supervisor or immediate boss. Whereas the wheel allows the employees, when they are working in a very close knitted project team, they may bypass their employees where the main project head, for example, project manager, is aligned with all the other team members for one specific task where they are allowed to communicate or they allowed to get in touch with that project manager directly. Whereas when we say all channel, it is self-managed team. It is very closely knitted. It's based on it bypass all the the hierarchical levels, as well as it is also known as open communication among the levels. There are certain small group communication. It refers to the interactions that takes place in an organization or departmental setup that usually connected with a common purpose, with common goal, mutually influence, and shared identity. There are three basic needs where when the small group communication arises. First is instrumental needs. With the increased access to resources, the small groups look forward to satisfy common needs. Second is interpersonal needs. With an access to inclusion and support, small groups help in influencing the outcome. In case of trauma that is inflicted on women that undergo domestic violence, therapy groups cater the provision of emotional support. Identity needs. Certain groups allow people to feel the sense of achievement and affiliations by providing instances to grow and modify current set of skills and knowledge. For example, the football groups in different cities exist to improve the abilities of the members. If we see from the professional front, many councils and many affiliations are coming up with a reward system where they ask the organizations to nominate their employees where they are identified as their employees on specific skill sets. Let's see what is the informal channels. Informal channels is the channels where the social and personal tend to follow the mode of communication. These are very spontaneous in communication to the formal channels and result due to the individual choice. This is also called as grapevine structure and consists of all the rumors that get transmitted. Grapevine structures are that they tend to work towards employees' anxieties, serves as employee social needs, and boost the overall morale of the organization. Whereas the gossip is defined as the exchange of information between two people about the third absent person. and the rumors in the organization takes place about out of the situation that are very important. It generates anxiety and deals at certain level of ambiguity. These are the key reasons why rumors flourish most of the times in the organization. Rumors persist when there are new bosses, replacements, and also at the time of reallocation. These three kind of informal communication is generally seen at the organizational setup where the rumors spread like anything in the organization, and the gossips are not only about exchange of information but also about sometimes on a personal traits or personal indifferences between the people, which can be discussed with the two people about the absent person. There are certain suggestions to reduce the adverse effects of rumors. As rumors spreads very fast like a fire, so it is very important to reduce the adverse effects so that it should not harm the organization or the employees overall. First is to provide the information. The best way is to provide complete information so that the walls of rumor get broken altogether. For example, certain things that remain secretive or incomplete, it is better to be carefully observed and explain them so that the perception of unfairness get reduced. Refrain. Rumors are very natural. Therefore, examining the source is foolish. It is important to respond rationally and logically. Maintaining is about moving towards open communication so that the suggestions and ideas can be noted. There are certain forms of electronic communication which are mainly emails, instant text messages, social networking, blogs, video conferencing, and teleconferencing. Out of this, all the mainly emails, video conferencing, teleconferencing are documented and a form of formal electronic communication which is widely used by the organization. Effective ways to communicate for flexible organization. More flexible hours. The employee should choose the hours they work. This in turn will bring in more trust, then helps in influencing the workplace productivity. The constant urge to be a notification, enabled services, enables devices, brings in anxiety and exhaustion and blurs the line between the home and the work. So many organizations are following flexible hours that can be chosen by the employees. Fewer meetings. Organization like GitLabs, a remote organization, has made its meeting optional and suggested that the minutes and outcomes of the meeting could be floated around the Google document. This will help in unlocking the actual benefits of the flexible organization with increased productivity. Because it is seen that most of the time is sometimes it is devoted for the only meetings, and the main productivity and the main work get hampered. So overall, it is seen that the productivity is decreased. So to make it more effective, it is the initiative taken by GitLab to take it meetings optional, and they can put the minutes of meeting on the Google documents. There are certain right tools for the right communication. Video conferencing. Video conferencing is very prevalent in maintaining the social obligations by bringing everyone at the middle point. The benefit of the same is the availability of visual cues in addition to the audio call. This is best when the employees are spread it at different geographical locations. Chat-based communication. Teams and Slacks are the mediums that deploy chat-based communication. Many organizations have adapted themselves to use this form of order in order to have instant check-in discussions. The instant pop-up mechanism should be well managed to avoid irrelevant discussions. Long-form shared communication. It is important that the communication in the front of blog, online document, or wiki is highlighted because of the benefits it gets to the remote working. Amazon, for example, has a ritual of takes place before the meeting. Implications for the recent forms of organizations. We have seen about the flexible organization policies. We have talked about the electronic communication, and among that, video conferencing, chat messages, Slacks, their own management systems, as well as the long form of shared communication is used for the modern organization. But what are the implications for the recent forms of organization? It should be properly linked with the internal communication team. The organizational policies set up to initiate flexible workplaces should create a policy that are congruent with the mission, vision, and goal of an organization. There should be efforts to promote effective work-life balance. It is important to help the team members. It is the effective monitoring processes that align with a clear purpose will help in making communication effective in recent forms of communication. It is seen that the virtual organizations or the remote organizations may decrease the work life balance. So, organizations have to make the policies accordingly so that it can be maintain the work life balance for an organization, which results in the increased productivity of our employees. There are certain information which can be uh, rich, which can be low rich or high rich. And there are certain communication channels which are formal reports, bulletins, pre recorded speeches, online discussions, live speeches, video conferencing, memos, letters, or electronic mails, voice mails, telephonic conversations, and face to face conversations. So when we talk about the low channel richness, it is more inclined towards and includes the formal reports, bulletins, memos, and letters. Whereas it moves towards the pre-recorded messages and electronic mail, then towards the high channel richness is more towards online discussions to live speeches to voicemail to telephonic conversation, and the highly channel richness is mainly consists of video conferences and face-to-face conversation. High channel richness refers to where a person is live and can be recorded. All the when they sit across the on the electronic video conferencing platforms, and the real time conversation can be recorded. That is high channel richness. Whereas the low channel richness is known to be as format reports or bulletins because the speed of transferring this message to the different level is little slow. Automatics and control processing of communication. When we say automatic processing, it is relatively a superficial consideration of evidence and for information making use of heuristic. As a human beings, we often tend to work on automatic processing of information that takes place very less amount of time and effort when it comes to making the decision making. For example, buying a matchbox where there is no need to require any rational thinking of knowing about the pros and cons of buying the matchbox. Whereas when we talk about the other way of communication, that is controlled processing, where the detailed consideration of information relies on the facts, figures, and logic. For example, purchasing a house or purchasing any specific object, there comes a lot of factors and come in handy with weighing the cost, finance, city, area, locality. This processing requires detailed information that involves relying on on the facts and the references. It requires time and energy in comparison to automated processing. So overall, when we talk about the processing of communication, it can be automatic or it can be controlled. So when it is automatic, it is mainly on a very small decisions or maybe the decisions on a day-to-day life also. But the control processing of communication is when we are talking about when we are deciding on some specific buying, or maybe we are deciding on some specific factors from an organizational context, control processing is more towards strategize and the policies and the procedures of an organization, whereas an automatic processing is the day-to-day functions of an organization. Factors influencing the type of processing based on decision impact. It depends on the interest level. The level of interest plays a very important role in deciding the kind of information processing. For example, if the individual is very keen in specific decision instead cooking on a budget out of a blue moon, then the cuisine to cook will involve rational processing. The prior knowledge is very important. Poorly informed individuals tend to change their mind very frequently. Then automatic processing is said to enter into the decision making. Overall personality of an individual also impacts a lot when it is a decision making process where a person if a person is taking any decision, then the person is utilizing control processing. Message characteristics. When the communication involves one on one interaction with respect to the hiring of a candidate out of pool, then control processing will be preferred. One cannot hire a person through automatic processing. That this is the one of the very critical function of an organization. So hiring processes are depends on the kind of person, their personality, their knowledge, their skills. So the rational thinking is very important, which refers to the control processing. There are certain barriers to effective communication. Filtering. Manipulating the message in such a way that the receiver starts viewing it more favorably is known as filtering. At times, when an employee starts sending messages, then the boss would love to hear is called filtering information. It's seen that the employee wants to say something or maybe wants to share that information with their boss, wants to see or hear. Selective perception. Selective perception is happens when employees differ with respect in their educational status, cultural background, desires, and personalities. It is because of these variations that the employees hear and perceive according to what they want. Receivers tend to base their interest as they finally get to decode the message. In an interview, the interviewer who expects a female employee to put her childcare responsibilities first will continue having the same perception for all the others. So, perception is very important, but it is again sometimes a barrier of effective communication. Information, when it is overloaded, then also it becomes a barrier. When the processing capacity is limited, the excess of information leads to information overloaded. May result the individual to start to ignore because it's sometimes it is not understandable, sometimes it is not being able to decode the messages, so they goes on avoiding and pass on the information. Emotions plays very important role in communication, but sometimes it becomes a barrier for effective communication. The expressiveness of the results into information distortion. For example, and when an individual is angry, that he or she is more likely to interpret the messages negative. It is seen by most of the subordinates. They want you to talk to their managers or the supervisor when his or her mood is good. This is as a layman language they use that the boss mood is good. So let's talk about this particular project or this particular, or maybe if they want some leave, they always see the mood of a manager. Languages. Languages are the medium that help in clear differentiations between the individuals with varied context and cultures. Sometimes even the correct translation at times bears difference in the meaning in the original message. This may happen with where the cultural people from different diverse background are there in the organization. Silence is very important. Silence plays a very important role in communication, but sometimes it may become a barrier. Remaining silent is very problematic when it comes to the organizational context, because there we need the feedback of the message already sent to the by the sender to the receiver. For example, in case of harassment and corruption, it is not desirable to remain shut. Remaining silent can hamper the productivity and result into psychological stress. There is likely to be reduced cases of silence as a mechanism where there is procedural justice plays a very important part that can be accomplished with respect. Communication apprehension. At times, stammering occurs when there is high amount of pressure, tension, or anxiety in the way of employees tries to communicate either in verbal or written or in both. This makes it very challenging for an individual for them to have a direct confrontation and communication face to face. So in that case, they rely more on mails or the text messages instead of going with verbal or face to face interaction. Lying refers to the misinterpretation of an information, and on an average, an individual lied twice during a day. Therefore, when it comes to the organization, the number becomes manifold. It becomes easier for people to lie over a phone than in a person. Therefore, the frequency of lying and challenge that comes with identifying liars make it a strong barrier of communication in an organizational context. We were talking about the communication, we talk about the barriers of communication, we talk about the effective ways of communication and the channels or the process of the communication. Communication brings the power. The power is the word derives from word portray. The central meaning of portray is to be able. Power is the ability to effect something or be affected by something. In simple words, it is described as a capacity which a person can influence how the other person behaves such that the desire of the first person get fulfilled. Higher is the dependence naturally. Power can act only if the person can control something the second person desires. It happens only when a person have higher dependency on one particular about one particular subject to on the other person. When a person holds power, they tend to show more signs of confidence and more signs of dishonesty, since there is less dependency on anyone. There is power over, power with, and other modes of power. The mode is actually a way in which something occur on its experience, or they expressed, or they do the things. So power over is explicit or implicit dominance. It refers to the ability to control the workers despite their size resistance covertly. It is zero sum game. It means the gain of one actor implies the loss for another. Power over is used to enhance one's survival. When a person uses the power to survive within an at the workplace. Power to mold individuals the opportunity to act more freely with some realms of organizational operations through power sharing, or what is commonly called empowerment. When we say empowered organization, it means the power to mold is there. The employees or the individuals have opportunity to act freely within an organization. So it is more of a power sharing mode. Power from. It refers to the ability to resist of others by effectively fending off their unwanted demands. Power from can be expressed in many ways. Simply put, power from its a ability to handle the undesirable influence attempt initiated by someone else. Power with. Power with is an inevitable part of life, but not necessarily autocratic in nature. Power usually means power over. The power of some person or group of a group over another person or group, and it is possible to develop the conception of power with and jointly develop power or coactive, not a coercive power. It promotes collective strength, mutual support, solidarity, and collaboration. Power with can help build bridges across different interests to transform or reduce social conflicts and promote equitable relationship among the individuals or the employees within an organization. There are certain sources of power. One is coercive power, reward power, legitimate power, personal power, expert power, referent power, and informational power. Let's see what is coercive power. Coercive power is the ability to force compliance through threats, punishment, or pressure. For example, a manager threatens to fire an employee if they do not meet deadlines. Reward power refers to the ability to influence others by offering rewards or incentives, where a teacher gives credit to students who perform well in their assignments. Legitimate power refers to the formal position or role in an organization. For example, a CEO have power to make the decisions based on their positions. Personal powers refers to it is more based on individual traits, their own charisma, or relationships. It is seen among the team leaders where they inspire employees through strong communication and motivation. Expert power derives from possessing specialized knowledge or skill set. For example, a cybersecurity expert advising a company on data protection strategies. Referent power. Power based on admiration, respect, or personal connections. A celebrity influencing their fans' purchasing decisions. It is seen nowadays by the influencer who influence the people who talk about the specific product and the people buy it because they are being able to influence. That is a referent power. They refer those products. Informational power, power gained by controlling or possessing information. A journalist breaking a major news story before competitor is an example of informational power. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is the most needed power resource that has been found to be indispensable in transforming the structure of power relations. Individual teams, groups, or departments that possesses knowledge play a crucial role in attaining organizational goals and vision, but only this knowledge is used for organizational goal. Knowledge power is not unlike expert. Control of resources as power. Controlling the resources like money, human resource, materials, equipments, customer to function, departments, groups, or individuals who can provide essential or it is difficult to obtain resources naturally possess more power in the organization than others. The power arises with a degree of dependence on any organizational setup. Dependency occurs when there are resources that are controlled by the organization in terms of money, human resource, material, equipments, machines, and customers. Powers and politics. That goes hand by hand. Power and politics come into play when, for instance, any core competency skills needs to be protected. The more important organizational politics is attached to the skill set, the greater the fight for it. For example, the Procter and Gamble, the marketing team leads the game and has greatest power. Various studies have pointed out that the marketing departments are being the most powerful in case of industrial organization. Power and politics is very interrelated, mainly depends on few factors. One is scarcity. The scarcity dependence relationship is evident regarding individuals with a non-negotiable skill set. Until the employee is in demand due to this specific skill set, the power will be more since a particular skill set is scarce, non-substitutable. In economics, the general principle is that if there are substitutes for any product, this will imply that the price dynamics cannot alter much. This is the sole reason why the prices of Thumbs Up and Coca Cola are almost the same. On the other hand, if an individual is easily replaceable, they will not be able to influence decision making as a power. The authority to make decisions in an organization create more or less power differences among the individuals or the groups. The managers exercise considerable organizational power because of the decision making authority. Although decision making is very important aspect of management in an organization, where the cultural differences also make sometimes the significant differences in the relationships. The cultural differences in the role of informal power can be somewhat diminish and exacerbate power differences. Networks. Network refers to the people of diverse network background, or maybe the people within the industry of the same area or the region or the skill set or the resources. So power depends not only the access to information resources or decision making, but it's also the ability to secure the cooperation in carrying out that particular task. Managers with strong connecting skills, links with others in the organization and beyond will be more potent than the who does not have these links. So it is seen that sometimes a person or a manager have very strong links within the different departments. So they get their work done through their links or maybe with their it can be a skill set of influencing or communication or whatever. Being the center of the diverse network generates immense power, both the ability to gather knowledge, use early warnings, and distribute to influence others. In a case in point is the power generated by social media network. The phenomenon is still emerging and not yet well understood. Politics. Politics is a part of organization life. Since organization comprise various interests and must be aligned, it is essential that the employees needs to be engaged in politics for the organizational interest to be strategically inclined. Organizational politics originates when power affects decision making in an organizational setup. It includes all the activities that are not part of the employee's formal role. The efforts to influence specific processes that are used in decision making. The essential information from the stakeholder joining or forming or coalition, spreading its information, leaking sensitive information to the media are some of the examples of this. In a highly political environment, employees perceive that the behaviors have hidden and selfish motives. It is said that no organization is complete without the politics and the power within an organization. So the perceived organizational politics refers to the activities that are undertaken in the organization to achieve individual results. So it's the perceived organizational politics are those activities which it can be negative perception of where they affect the job satisfaction and eventually influence the decision to neglect the identity. Sometimes organizational politics are normally seen as destructive force, but when it used effectively, it can be used to achieve the goals also to live up to the vision and mission statements of the organization. Organizational politics is generally considered as dirty. Therefore, ensuring the intent is very important. It should bring the welfare to the entire organization is very challenging for the management. In a nutshell, it involves tasks that help satisfy personal and organizational interest. Employees with political skills can cater to job demands better. For instance, to convince others regarding a significant change, there might be specific coalition that need to be built. Political behavior. Politics can have both negative and positive effects. In a nutshell, it is simply with the activity by which the power is exercised to sort conflicts and remove the uncertainty within an organization. The positive side of the political behavior helps in boosting the creativity and strengthening the consensus. Even when the change is desired in an organization, political tasks are needed to convince employees in form of an agreement. There might be instances where these political tasks might be the only way out to achieve unity within an organization. Political behavior, positive sides help to achieve the organization goals by sorting out differences and creating the coalition or the collaborative workforce. The negative side, on the other hand, is refers to the dishonesty, conflicts, and harm in the work context. These results cause of feeling of organizational politics, how about the low self-worth, low morale, poor decision making, or the anxiety among the employees of an organization. That is why the dark side of political behavior is precisely why managers disapprove of political behavior. Domains of political activity in an organization is mainly categorized into three forms: structural change, management succession, and resource allocation. For example, in case of mergers and acquisitions, transfers, hiring, there are strategic contingencies that need to be catered to. All of these activities requires the active involvement of higher management to arrive at the common ground. This naturally creates a lot of political action. So here the structural change, when we talk about the domain of this activity, it is required there to be politically correct and positive sides of the political behavior of the employees and the management within an organization. Management succession refers to management hiring can results in atmosphere of uncertainty and confusion sometimes. The fight is to retain power, often indulge in many political tasks. This biasness to put known people in prominent positions, resulting in engaging in politics, thereby forming coalitions and alliances. Third political activity, domain of political activity, which is known to be as resource allocation. Resources include all the vital elements that help in smooth functioning of an organization. For example, the salaries, the facilities of an organization, equipments, the machines, or maybe the automobiles, the allocation of these resources that are especially scarce demand, resolving dilemmas regarding procurement of those resources. Let's see what is power, politics, and collaboration, how they are interrelated. Power in organization is not a phenomenon that is primarily concerned with individual. It is a circle instead of organizational factors, context, and environmental contingencies. The individual's responsibility determines how the outcomes in the organization will unfold along the structural components of the organizational setup. Whereas the individual political, their own individual skills, political skills have to do lot with shaping and dynamics of organizational relationship with them, with their colleagues, with the top management, or maybe with the people who are connected with that particular area. The skill of honing relationship with a large number of employees and diverse situations is all takes to be politically influential manager. For example, evidence points out of finance department use more direct approaches to influence decisions. On the other hand, human resource department adopt a more subtle approach to influence. There are certain tasks for increasing power to enter areas of high certainty, where the functional areas who have high certainty are results in increasing the power. Create dependency. Create the dependency refers to when the resources are dependent on for any decision is dependent on specific resource. So while creating a dependency may lead to increase in power of that particular department or that particular person on that position. Provide scarce resources. Providing the resources in a very limited way or in a controlled manner may also increase in the power. Satisfy strategic contingencies also refers to increasing in power. So all these tax are, but it has to be used in a very corrective manner, in a very controlled manner, so that the power may lead to productivity. It may increase to the not to the positive side of politics, not to the negative side of politics overall. Politic tax for using power is coalitions and networking. When the networking is and the coalitions or the alliances are formed, that can be used for mutual benefits. Instead of getting bound by formal arrangements or maybe the discussions or maybe the contracts to reach an agreement. Loyal people in critical positions to achieve the organization goal, hiring employees dedicated to organization goals are very important. To control the decision premises, when a department puts the best policy forward by showcasing all the objective criteria, the department can support its point of view. Legitimacy and expertise. Organization with several departments hire consultants or third parties or the experts to establish the legitimacy concerns regarding hiring and firing decisions. Direct appeal. In case an employee waiting for his or her promotion and start appealing, it will be in form of direct approach. Assertive appeals tend to get accepted since the management has no other options. So these are the few political tacts which can be used for power. For enhancing collaboration, integration devices is very important. When we integrate all the resources and the devices together, this enhance the collaboration among the employees of an organization. Second is confrontation and negotiation. It happens when the employees comes forward for the negotiation or maybe they confront on some specific policy or the issues happens within an organization. Intergroup consultation is very important when we wanted to enhance the collaboration within an organization where all the groups come together and consult on and they decide on some one common platform. Practice member rotation, where the members are rotated on the based on their job profiles, based on what the authorities and the this happens to be known them about all the functional area of an organization, which definitely enhance the collaboration among the employees. The shared mission is very important to enhance the collaboration because all the vision and objectives and the mission of an organization has to be shared with all the employees in order to enhance the collaboration or the teamwork within an organization, which results in better productivity or increase in productivity of an organization. There are certain subsections of organizational politics. First is self promotion, which disregarding other employees' ideas and perceptions and instead opting to take away that credit is called self promotion. Office politics. It is very common term which is used through influence or when we talk about the manipulating when an individual tries to influence others for their personal benefits. Factionalism, that refers to the groups are based on everyday tasks or the interest factors in any organizational setup. This results in forming various coalitions based on common factors that eventually help to achieve goals. Gatekeeping happens when purposely blocking other employees' ideas from entering the present situation. This is often done out of fear. Therefore, employees resort of gatekeeping to protect one's position of power. Territorialism. It happens when the employees get extremely clingy towards their role so that other employees do not get the chance to fit in that particular area or that particular skill set. Bossism. It favors those you work under over those who report directly to you. So it depends. Bossism refers to where you work over, you have to directly report to that person. So sometimes these sections of the organizational politics may hamper the personal on an individual or employee in a very adverse effects, but it has to be taken care by the the entire management. What if the gatekeeping is going on or not, whether the office politics is going or not, territorialism is happening among within an organization or not. So it has to be taken care by the top management as well. Distinct influence tactics are legitimacy, rational persuasion, emotional appeals, consultation, exchange, personal appeals, integration, pressure, or coalition. Legitimacy relying on the authority position or saying request accords with organizational policies or rules. Presenting logical arguments and factual evidence refers to the rational persuasion. Emotional appeals refers to the emotional commitment by appealing to a target's values, needs, hopes, and aspirations. The consultation refers to the target support by involving them how to decide or how to accomplish the while accomplishing the plan. Exchange refers to rewarding the target with benefits or favors in exchange or following the request. Personal appeal is all about compliance based on friendship or loyalty within an organization. Ingratitude use flattery or friendly behavior before making a request. Pressure is all about the warnings or repeated demands or threats. And coalition refers to the aid or the support to others to persuade the targets to agree on specific decisions. How the power, political skills, and organizational politics flow. Political skills refers to ability to influence others in such a way that it enhances one's objective. The hustle culture has free flow of communication within the startup these days, within the organization these days, and it is free of biasness and favoritism. Now, the individuals high on extroversion foster team communication and growth during when they have free flow of communication. Any organizational setup indulges in paradoxical priorities and often deals with scarcity of resources. When the resources are scarce, when the priorities are there, the employees often have to engage in politics to exert influence, earn profits, and progress in their career. When they when they goes along with these behavioral aspects, these employees with political skills often use the power tax. These tax, the political structure provide a power base for the employees. And now they operate to create a flow of income by satisfying the needs of the market, which slowly reaches a point where career development stands at the highest growth. And it becomes crucial to transform individual desires by influencing people in the organization. And this entire process, from ability to influence others, from to hustle culture or the free flow of communication to paradoxical priorities, then to political skills, using of political skills and the political creating a political structure, then it comes the point where the career development stands up at highest growth. This entire process forms the basis of development of political pyramid, which constitute of power, political skills, and organizational politics overall. There are certain factors which contribute to political behavior. Political behavior is low when the individuals are self-monitored, they have internal locus of control, organizational investment, they are focused on organizational investment, they perceive job alternatives, the promotion opportunities are there, Then the political behavior is low, where the individual factors and the organizational factors are happens to be more of a democratic decision making. Participative management style is there. uh, there are certain evaluation behavior. So the performance behavior tends to be high when the favorable outcomes relates with rewards or averted punishments. So these are few of the yes, political behavior is there, but it is low in certain factors and high on where the favorable outcomes comes to the results to the rewards and aborted punishments. Employees' response towards organizational politics is where the employees with their creative skill most of time love their job. People mostly get tired all the day when they are asked to operate in highly criticized workplace. Employees who are not high self monitor tend to get anxious, typically because organizational politics acts as a added pressure to them. Then understanding plays a considerable role in organizational politics and the job performance. The cultural of the countries also reflect the kind of work environment they operate in. For example, an employee with well-honed political skills, understanding the highs and highs of political actions are very important, is more important for them. This further makes the political behavior to be treated as an opportunity rather than a threat. There are certain side effects, adverse effects of organizational politics, which may result to decrease in job satisfaction. It results to increase in anxiety and stress among the employees. It increase in the turnover and finally reduce the performance or the productivity of an employees. There are certain defensive behavior. One is avoiding action, where the over conforming implies that the certain ways, only way to things have always been done. Then sometimes a plain dumb of a person casually avoids a task by showing ignorance. Avoiding blame refers to the buffing refers to covering the activity to appear competent, whereas avoiding change is all about self protection, is when one acts the ways to guard information. So there are certain scapegoating is another way of avoiding blame, where they constantly blames the external factors or maybe someone else for that particular not doing that particular job. Misinterpretation is when there is selective presentation of an information. Stalling is one way of avoiding action when an employee seems more or less cooperative. So avoiding action, avoiding blame, and avoiding change are the defensive behavior of an employees who generally been seen in a organizational setup if we really talk about the political behaviors. Impression management is when the people in certain culture have desire to positively perceived by others, a process by which individual attempts to control the impression that others perceive of them is called impression management. Low self-monitor individuals tends to have stable personalities and same images regardless of the effect, whereas the high self-monitors tend to read situations and then fit themselves according to the present case. So certain impression management techniques are conformity, which agreeing with someone else's opinion to gain his or her approval. Favors, we are doing something nice to someone to gain that person's approval. Excuses, explanation of the pre-discernment creating event aimed at minimizing the apparent severity of the predicament. Apologies, admitting responsibility for the undesirable event and simultaneously seeking to get a pardon for the action. Self promotion, highlighting one's best qualities, downplaying one's deficits, and calling attention to one's achievement. Enhancement, which claims to something you do is more valuable. Flattery is all about complimenting others and the virtues to make oneself appear perceptive and likable. Ethics in political behavior is very essential to understand whether it is harm it or inflict to others. Behavior involving complimenting someone to get a task done is much less harmful than taking undue credit for a job that was not done by him oneself. Fairness and justice in these aspects must be rationally based and appropriately as per the standards. So, playing politics should be undertaken considering the risk in the process. So, there has to be clear distinction between the ethical and unethical practices within an organization. So, overall, we have learned, we have covered so far the clear communication, the process of communication, which the clear communication reduces ambiguity, increase satisfaction, drives organizational success. We have covered using how the downward, upward, and lateral communication improve performance and reduces misunderstanding, the types of these communication with examples. The feedback loops is very important in the communication process, which help to align expectations between the sender and the receiver. The effective communication requires audience awareness, empathy, and minimal judgment. Employees respond to different power based on their personal, organizational. Personal refers to referent or the experts, whereas the organizational power bases are coercive, records, or legitimate. Politics influence conflict resolution through negotiation, networking, and coalition building. Managers need political skills to navigate conflicts and resource constraints. Organizational politics can impact career growth, job satisfaction, and performance management. And the conflicts and politics are inevitable. Collaboration strategies help them effectively. So, overall, when we talk about the communication, power, politics, there has to be ethical and standardized procedures. It has to be rationally think from the employees to take care of the communication strategies, the power and politics within an organization. That's all for today. Thank you so much. Namaste.